Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're going to unpack one of the most absolutely fascinating, yet somehow totally overlooked figures from the great Indian epic, the Mahabharata. You know, when we think of the Kurukshetra War, we usually picture those famous legendary heroes, right? Guys like Arjuna, Karna, or Bhima, all locked in brutal combat for 18 grueling days. But what if I told you there was a warrior present who never actually fought a single day, yet literally held the power to end the entire war almost instantly? It sounds crazy, but today we're tracing the incredible journey of Barbarika, an unsung hero whose story takes us all the way from unmatched physical dominance to the ultimate act of selfless devotion.
So, before the Great War even began, Lord Krishna actually went around and asked the greatest champions how long it would take them to finish the battle single-handedly. Bhima said 20 days, Drona said 25, Arjuna thought he could do it in 28 days. But when Krishna asked Barbarika, his answer was just mind-blowing. 1 single minute. Yep, just 60 seconds to completely wipe out millions of soldiers. Now, I know that sounds completely impossible, right? No way someone could do that. Well, to understand how he could make such a bold claim, we really have to look at exactly who he was and the divine tools he had up his sleeve.
To really grasp his sheer power, we've got to look at his lineage. Barbarika was born into a literal family of powerhouses. I mean, he was the grandson of the mighty Pandava Bhima and the son of the fierce Ghatotkacha and Princess Madhavi, so genetics were definitely on his side. From a very young age, Barbarika was just a profoundly gifted child. He learned the art of warfare directly from his warrior mother, and through some seriously intense devotion and meditation, he was blessed by Lord Shiva and the goddesses with supreme divine strength. But here's the thing. His real trump card? It wasn't actually just his brute physical strength.
The secret to his impossible 60-second claim really just comes down to a single number, 3. You see, Barbarika was famously known as the Teen Bhandari, which translates to the bearer of 3 arrows. Now, these weren't just your standard wooden arrows. They were infallible, strictly divine weapons gifted to him by the gods themselves. And paired with a special bow given to him by Agni, the god of fire, it made him utterly, completely invincible across all the 3 worlds. Seriously, he only ever needed these 3 specific arrows in his quiver for the whole shebang.
Think of these 3 arrows acting together like a flawlessly designed combat system. It's basically like a magical, unbeatable algorithm. Here's how it worked. If Barbarika fired the first arrow, it would instantly fly around the battlefield and basically tag or mark everything he wanted to destroy. Then, the second arrow would zip around and mark everything he wanted to actively save. Finally, he'd release the third arrow, and it would completely wipe out all the targets marked by that first arrow, or, alternatively, destroy anything not protected by the second one. Once the absolute destruction was done, the arrows would literally just return right back to his quiver. Boom! In 60 seconds, the whole war would be over. But of course, here is where the story takes a massive, and I mean massive, twist. Before leaving for the battlefield on his iconic blue horse, Barbarika made a deeply noble vow to his mother. He promised her, outright, that he would never use his overwhelming god-tier power to bully the weak. Instead, he swore he would always fight for the losing side, the underdog. Now, on the surface, that sounds incredibly heroic, doesn't it? A truly noble guy. But as we're about to see, this exact promise was actually a recipe for total cosmic disaster. Okay, so picture this. When Barbarika arrived at Kurukshetra, he assessed the 2 armies. The Kaurava army was just massive, consisting of 11 Akshuhinis, which are basically huge, sprawling military units. The Pandava army, on the other hand, was significantly smaller, fielding only 7 Akshuhinis. Because of his vow, Barbarika took one look and immediately declared he would fight for the Pandavas, simply because they were the weaker side. But Lord Krishna, who was secretly orchestrating the war to restore cosmic balance, immediately saw the terrifying world-ending flaw in this plan. And that brings us to the ultimate paradox. Imagine if Barbarika actually joins the Pandavas. He fires his arrows and instantly the massive Kaurava army is completely devastated. But wait, now the Kauravas are the weaker side. Bound strictly by his vow to his mother, Barbarika would instantly be forced to switch sides and attack his own allies, the Pandavas. But then the Pandavas would become weaker, right? So he'd have to switch back again. He would continuously oscillate back and forth like a deadly pendulum, completely obliterating both armies until literally no one was left standing on the battlefield except for Barbarika himself.
Lord Krishna knew he had to intervene immediately, so disguising himself as a humble Brahmin, he intercepted Barbarika on his way to the battlefield. Krishna playfully mocked the young warrior for only carrying 3 little arrows and challenged him to a seemingly impossible test: pierce every single leaf on the giant peepal tree they were standing under. Barbarika calmly agreed and closed his eyes to meditate, but while he was distracted, Krishna was sneaky. He slyly plucked one single leaf and hid it right under his own foot just to see if these arrows were truly as foolproof as they seemed. Barbarika released his first arrow. It zipped rapidly all around the tree, marking every single leaf in a flash. But then it did something truly incredible. It didn't just stop. It flew straight down and literally started hovering rapidly around Krishna's foot. Barbarika opened his eyes, smiled, and politely asked the Brahmin to lift his leg, warning him that the arrow would actually pierce straight through his foot just to get to that hidden leaf beneath it. Krishna was absolutely stunned. The arrows were genuinely infallible. There was absolutely nowhere to hide from Barbarika's power. Realizing that Barbarika's mere presence would completely derail the entire war and wipe out both sides, Krishna, still in his Brahmin disguise, asked the young warrior for charity, a dan. Barbarika, staying true to his incredibly generous nature, promised him absolutely anything he wanted. Well, Krishna then drops the disguise, reveals his magnificent, awe-inspiring divine form, and asks for Barbarika's own head. He explained that to properly sanctify the battlefield and ensure dharma, or righteousness, actually won the war, the bravest Kshatriya warrior had to be sacrificed. And without even a moment's hesitation, Barbarika agreed. Now, let's just step back and pause for a second, because this sacrifice wasn't just some random heartbreaking tragedy. It was actually profound cosmic karma at play. You see, in a previous life, Barbarika was a yaksha, a powerful celestial spirit, who proudly boasted to the gods that he alone could wipe out all evil on earth. Offended by his huge ego, Lord Brahma cursed him, decreeing that when the time came, this yaksha would be the first to be killed by Lord Vishnu's avatar. So being born again as Barbarika, this incredible sacrifice wasn't actually a defeat at all. It was the beautiful, willing fulfillment of an ancient cosmic cycle. Before he made the sacrifice, Barbarika had only one final request. He really just wanted to watch the epic war he had spent his life preparing for. Deeply moved by his incredible devotion, Krishna sprinkled his severed head with divine nectar, essentially making it immortal. He then carefully placed Barbarika's head high atop a hill overlooking the vast plains of Kurukshetra. So, from this ultimate vantage point, literally the best seat in the house, Barbarika got to watch every single moment of the brutal 18-day war unfold. And the story gets even better when the war finally ended. The victorious Pandava brothers started arguing amongst themselves. Their egos flared up as they endlessly debated who among them was the absolute greatest warrior, and who was most responsible for winning. Krishna just smiled and suggested they go ask the only truly objective witness, Barbarika. When they asked him, Barbarika gave a response that totally shattered their pride. He told them he didn't see Arjuna or Bhima fighting at all. He said he only saw Krishna's divine Sudarshana chakra spinning across the battlefield and the goddess Mahakali consuming the sinners. Through Barbarika's eyes, the Pandavas were forced to confront a really profound cosmic truth. Mortal heroes are really just instruments. Despite all the flexing of muscles, the famous weapons, and the clash of massive armies, it was ultimately divine will that actually fought and won the battle. The Pandavas were just the vehicles being used to restore balance to the world. Barbarika's unique, elevated perspective completely stripped away all that human ego. Lord Krishna was overwhelmingly pleased with Barbarika. Think about it. This guy had willingly given up immense, world-ending physical power, sacrificed his own life, and demonstrated the deepest spiritual understanding possible. As the ultimate reward, Krishna granted him a magnificent boon. He declared that in our current age, the Kaliyuga, Barbarika would actually be worshipped by Krishna's very own name, Shyam. He promised that anyone who worshipped him from the bottom of their heart would have all their troubles removed. And through centuries of just vibrant oral storytelling, Barbarika's legacy survived beautifully. Legends passed down through generations tell us that his head was buried in the village of Khatu, in modern-day Rajasthan, India. The story goes that centuries later, a cow miraculously began releasing milk spontaneously over one specific spot of dirt. Amazed villagers quickly dug up the earth and, to their shock, discovered the sacred head.
Following a divine dream, the local king, Rup Singh Chauhan, built a grand, beautiful temple on that exact spot in 1027 AD.
Today, that ancient oral legend has blossomed into a massive wave of devotion. Barbarika is deeply, deeply venerated as Khatu Shyam. Millions of pilgrims travel to his temple every single year. Because of that fateful vow to his mother to always support the losing side, he is lovingly known today as Hare ka Sahara, the support of the defeated. It's an incredible transformation, really. He went from being a terrifying human weapon of mass destruction into the ultimate deified symbol of compassion, answering the prayers of the distressed.
Which leaves us with a final, really powerful question to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. What is true power? Is it having the absolute physical dominance and the weapons to destroy your enemies in exactly 60 seconds? Or is it the selfless courage, the profound humility, to willingly give all of that power up when you realize it serves a greater divine good? Barbarika's journey reminds us that sometimes the absolute greatest heroes are actually the ones who purposely choose not to fight. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep exploring.